We have a guest in the studio. We'll be joined by another one shortly. Today is World Anti-FGM Day. And we want to have two women leaders with us in the studio. One of them is already here. She is the woman representative for Kisii County, Dorice Donya Aburi. The other one, we're waiting for her to join us shortly, Dennitah Ghati, former Migori woman rep and currently a gender, disability and anti-FGM activist. I welcome them with the day's proverb. This one is from Malawi, and you said the capital of Malawi, the commercial capital is Blantyre, and then the political capital is Lilongwe. And you were looking for the name of the president.
I got it. Lazarus Chakwera.
Yes. Lazarus Chakwera is the president of Malawi. He's been here a number of times. Yes. In fact, he lived in Buruburu, Nairobi, for a couple of years, where he was teaching at the, what's it called? Not Kenya School of Government. There's a Bible school in Buruburu. What's it called? East African School of Theology. East African Theology College, something like that. Yeah, Lazarus Chakwera was a lecturer there for a number of years.
He's been here for a minute. Okay.
Yes. The proverb from Malawi: if you dip your arm into the pickle, let it be up to your elbow.
Read it again.
If you dip your arm into the pickle pot, yes, let it be up to the elbow.
Why?
Who knows? Have absolutely no
idea.
Clue. It sounds like it was actually said by the president. You know the way he speaks like, those preachers. If you dip your arm into the pickle pot, let it be up to the elbow.
Okay.
Shindio. Dorice Donya Aburi is the woman rep for Kisii County. Good morning.
Morning to you all.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you very much.
Now that proverb, let's start from there. Do you understand it? If you dip your arm into the pickle pot, let it be up to the elbow.
Probably they could be warning on an, if you want to do something, be careful the level in which you're doing it, so that if things go hayway, you don't
lose the entire arm.
Maybe.
Could be. Could be something like that. Dorice, before you joined politics, you were a broadcaster.
First of all, allow me to greet our people who are listening.
Who are you?
Definitely they are, because we did posters.
Yes.
So all listeners of SpiceFM, greetings from Donya, Dorice Aburi, Umanempi, Kisii County, land of Matoke. Latest, we are the county that did well in the exams.
Right.
So it's good to note that. Yeah. So I greet all of you in Jesus' name, and we are here to discuss about FGM, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
So today is World Anti-FGM Day. And this is a conversation that's been taking place, in the country for many years. We have a national body that coordinates the fight against FGM. We've had conversations. Kenya has hosted even a global FGM conversation here. The former president Uhuru Kenyatta addressed that, and he pledged that Kenya will work very hard towards eradicating FGM. But we still hear cases of FGM across the country. How is it in Kisii?
First of all, I'm happy to discuss this topic that is so dear to my heart. Why I'm saying that, as you said earlier, I was a radio presenter before. Each day, I would update on FGM. Why I would do that is because you realized initially it was done traditionally. They've upgraded. It is now done medically, which is worrying. So parents will encourage their girls. They will tell them, you are not going to die. Nothing is going to happen. It's just a doctor who is going to do the act. So they encourage them to do it. Some of them go as far as telling them, it was also done to me. Yeah. So you are not the only one who is going to, who is facing this thing. And I'm preparing you to be a good wife, Imagine that's what they tell them. And this is done by controlling their sexuality, which is wrong. You've done it at the age of 5 to 12. You are controlling their sexuality. When they've grown up, they need it. How are you going to improve their sexuality? Parents don't know that it's actually a permanent scar that you will stay with for the rest of your life. So in Kisii, FGM has moved from traditional to medical. It was done traditionally 99%. Now traditionally we are at 33 and medically at 66. So what does that mean? FGM is going high.
When you say medically, what does that mean?
Doctors, nurses are doing
in hospitals.
Some who have pharmacies, some who have their own hospitals. They are doing it. It's
so
done.
Someone actually goes into a hospital and a medical professional performs.
They help them
operation.
do the act, just as they do abortion.
Yeah.
It's illegal in Kenya. Abortion is illegal. It's not allowed. But who is doing it? The doctors. So the FGM Act is performed by medics. They encourage them, you are not going to bleed, you are not going to die. So when you are told this thing is safe, what do? You enter into it full blast, knowing that you are not going to die. Nothing is going to happen.
Mheshimiwa, why is this done? I mean, I have an idea. I remember going into Narok a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I did a story on this, in the community for about a week, getting to understand what was really going on. But my question is, why is FGM still front and center in the minds of tradition? Why is that?
You see, when you are told you are going to transit to the next level, you are excited. You are graduating from childhood to adulthood. That's what the guys are told. You are a young girl, now you are going to be a whole woman. We are preparing you for marriage. It's I can say it's a cycle that is hard to shake. It's a very bad cycle. Your mentality from young, what can I say? First of all, let me tell you the FGM that is done. Initially, it was excision, where they could remove the clitoria and labia, the lips, if I can now put it in the layman's language. So they've told our young girls, we are not removing the whole genitalia. It is just a small cut. And this cut is to stick into your mind that you are now a grown-up. Okay. You are not a little child. It is a rite of passage. From childhood to adulthood.
So it's symbolic.
Yeah. Who will not wish to transit to the next level? So they are transiting in a wrong way. That's why we need education. Today it is an awareness day. We need to speak up for these young girls who can't speak. We need to be their voice.
Is there an understanding of this transitionary period? I'm not saying, okay. Is there a connection between the circumcision and this, what a young girl is being told, that you're now moving on to the next level of womanhood, as it were? Do they connect the two and say, okay, yes, I'm at that age and I'm moving on to the next part of life, and this circumcision is what is going to channel me through? Do they make the connection between the two, or is it two separate things? The circumcision, it's pain, it's lifelong, or are they actually looking at, I'm moving on? Which do they make the connection?
Now they make the connection through this context. You are kept in a room for like 3 weeks to heal. While you are in that room, you have your aunties coming to talk to you. Only your aunties, not your father. You will only see your father when the D-Day, when you are leaving that house. So while you're there is when you are told how you should sit properly, you should learn how to cook. That is the time now you are told all those things, because you'll be asking, why am I here? Some are very innocent. So the moment you leave there, your mind will be, now I'm not a small girl. I've been told this, I've been told that. That's why we have high rates of teen pregnancies. When you leave that place, you are now a woman. You can do what your mom is doing. You start early sex. You've been told you've graduated from a child to a woman.
What is it that the aunties tell the girls?
They tell
What kind of advice are they being given? Are they given sex education? Are they told about the importance of, avoiding sex before marriage? Are they told now it's about time you also start looking for a husband? What are they told by the women in this 3-week period?
Eric, what you should remember, our parents hardly talk of sex. That thing is left to you till your age of 18. They are not open. Even when the debate of sex education came, most of the people are like, what are you telling our children? That is wrong. But they don't know it's very vital to tell kids about sex. During that time of transition, what you are told is, you now have to behave well. Behaving well is be a woman. You are now a young woman. You should learn how to cook. You should learn how to carry out yourself, including you're told how to sit properly.
Okay.
Rarely are you told that avoid sex.
Are you told about marriage?
Not at that tender age.
Okay.
They hardly
so they're
talk
also
of-
not encouraging the young girls to go off and
They
get
are
married.
not
and all these
encouraging,
things.
but their word that you have now graduated from childhood to adulthood, you are now a young woman. That is what spikes them up. I'm now a young woman. And the fact that they've taken you in the morning, they usually do it in the morning, they've told you, Modoni or Nyaboke, remove your pants, because you have to walk in naked. That itself, if you had carried yourself wholly, you will be wondering, why am I removing my clothes? What is this that they've done to me? Some you will find it's their first time they are showing off their private parts. So when that indecent act has been done onto you, you will never respect yourself again. You will be like, if they've done it to me, anyone can do it. So these girls will start misbehaving. They will start practicing early sex because their dignity is not there anymore. It's like a shock. It has some mental disturbance. What is this that they've done to me?
I want to come back to you, and because I really want to see that connection between what is happening here and the onset of early sex, that direct connection. I'm still not getting it. But let's first of all introduce our second guest who's arrived in the studio. Dennitah Ghati is a former woman rep for Migori County. She has been a campaigner for very many things on gender issues and disability issues and anti-FGM. Good morning, Dennitah.
Morning. Good morning, Eric. Nice
Good to have you. Good to have you in the show.
Thank you and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. Yeah. Karibu sana, salimia mheshimiwa Dorice, mnajuana sana.
I know, Honorable Dorice Kisii, woman rep.
Yes.
Najua.
And Ndu.
Don't worry.
Yeah. That name is a bit difficult.
It's just NDU. 3 letters. Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Not difficult at all. Mheshimiwa, you've been campaigning on this issue of FGM for very many years, right?
Correct.
Today is World Anti-FGM Day. You've just walked in as Mheshimiwa Dorice was talking about what happens in Kisii and what she's seen and what she's been campaigning about even when she was on radio as a radio presenter. You've been doing this as well in Migori, in your own community of the Kuria. What is it like at present?
Allow me first of all to really, because I've listened to Honorable Dorice and what she's saying is it's just about the same. Because I come from a community, just like the Kisii community. FGM has been there. I mean, we grew up, we found FGM there. It has always been there, and it has been taken as a culture. It's a way of life for a very long time. It is now that we are beginning to see at least something we can say, okay, we are noticing some changes. But these changes, in my own observation, because even before I got into Parliament in 2013, and I've been in Parliament until last Parliament. And before I even got into Parliament, I have been engaged in these anti-FGM campaigns in my community. Kuria community, really, you know where we are. We border Tanzania to the other side. And we have had this issue for a very long time. And it is now that we are beginning to actually see a little bit of political will, although it is still not what we can say, because, obviously politics and FGM, they don't go together in most of our communities. Politicians fear talking about it. I got into parliament, and even within KEWOPA, the Kenya Women Parliamentary Association, I was running an anti-FGM, caucus, where we were looking at how do we tackle FGM in communities that especially do FGM, the northern side, our side, Kajiado side, Narok side. But we also realized that we have had issues. Communities are not just, things that you can go and tell them, oh, now FGM has to end at it ends. This is a way of life. It is a culture that has been there. We tried to think, oh, maybe we can do legislations. But let me tell you, legislation is even worse. It is terrible. Legislation cannot work alone. I tried that. Because I thought that, maybe because I am now in parliament, I can now bring in legislation, because before parliament I was an activist really pushing. Now I thought I have a platform where we can now enforce the laws. I mean, it doesn't work. By the way, you know very well that Kenya has tried in terms of campaigning against FGM. The former president Kenyatta Uhuru talked about FGM, and I'm happy that our current president now, Ruto, is basically talking about FGM and is taking a stand. So meaning that the will is there, but I think that enforcement is actually what is lacking.
Is it an enforcement that is needed, or is it another conversation in the community? Because like you've said, you come up with laws and you go and try and enforce the laws, and you're fighting against a culture that's been there for a long time. You're basically going to find a new wall that's been created.
Just quickly, one thing that I know, even with the laws and with our willingness to fight FGM, now there's something we are calling cross-border FGM. I don't know what is happening, and I cannot talk about that, because many of our communities that come from the border, Isebania, Sirare, Tarime, going to that side. My community, we have seen increasingly people going into Tanzania, because Tanzania, I don't think they have laws. They don't have strong laws that really protect their girls the way Kenya does. So in cultures that think that you are, infringing into their right, then they decide to just cross over and do FGM there. And that is why the campaigns that we are currently enforcing and working around are campaigns that now are going into Tanzania side. How do we bring the Tanzania side and Kenya side to a negotiation table that we can talk about this FGM? Because if it is outlawed in Kenya and it is not outlawed in Tanzania, this community will definitely cross the border. And that's what has been happening, for example, from where I come from. And this is something that we need to address.
So the question here is, the insistence on this tradition, is it as an attempt to remain within community, to be accepted within community, that you're following the traditions of the community, or is it because they really feel that this is a rite of passage? Is it to retain a status in community? And so the first part of that question, and the second part is, from what I saw, a lot of those who push for girls to be circumcised are their mothers.
Their mothers.
Right?
Yeah.
It's their mothers who, from what you're saying, have been through this experience. So they know there's something missing, right? Physiologically and otherwise. So why does the push then continue? So the first part of it is it for culture retention, to say that, yes, I am culturally established, I've done the thing that requires me to stay in this community culturally? Or are they just, doing it for the sake of doing it?
You remember Indu? Hope I've pronounced
Well
it well. I told you this is a cycle that is hard to shake. Your mother will tell you it was done
To me.
I did it. I went through it. That's what your mother will tell you. Some will not even give you a reason as to why they are doing it.
Or
But
what it makes sense.
some won't, but it will eventually happen. You see, when we grew up, some of my cousins, they were showing me how it was done. It was really bad. Removing the whole genitalia, the whole of it. Then you ask our aunties, why is it that this is happening to us? They tell you, we want to perfect you to a man who will marry you. You have to be perfect. You have to be that nice a woman to deserve that man. They were actually preparing you for marriage.
But the question is,
Then-
how does that act get you to be perfect?
I told you, they take you. It's like an exclusion where you stay in a house for a period of some
Yes,
time
yes.
to recover.
Yeah.
So in that
Or in that time is when they're
that
teaching
time
you
is
all
when
of
you're
this.
told
All right. Okay.
why this has happened to you. We want to prepare you for marriage.
And you know, again, culturally, I think there's something we're calling the social or cultural acceptance.
Right.
That is how it has always been. That, girls, in fact, girls themselves feel that, if my parents went through it and they fitted, why wouldn't I fit? It is that urge to fit in.
Yep.
And that is an urge that has been perpetuated for a very long time, that if you are not cut, then you are nothing. You cannot speak before, you don't get married.
Yep.
And, most of our traditional communities, girls, they grow to get married anyway. Obviously, getting married and having a family in the setup there is a symbol. And so for girls, they also push it themselves. There are girls who
I want to move to the next level. I mean, you are culturally and socially brought up this way. You grow up wanting to move to the next level. You want to move from, this level where you're crawling to walking to running to going to school to now becoming a young adult into becoming an adult. I mean, everybody has that thing at the back of their mind. If you've been brought up this way, that the significant symbolic move from being called a child to now starting to be treated as an adult, to be given more respect in the society, is going through this ritual, you'll go through the ritual.
Correct.
Then you will, some of us started talking about anti-FGM when we left our home. You've grown up in that area. The only thing you discuss is, that is the only subject you have. The cultural interventions are, people will be telling you, I also went through it. We did it. In fact, your peers will laugh at you if you've not gone through the cut.
Yeah.
What are you sharing with them? What are you discussing? It's like nowadays women, when we sit in chamas, we discuss about taking good care of ourselves, taking good care of our children, going out for nyama choma and all kind of stuff. So when you are domiciled there, that is the only thing you talk about. Unless you get out of that cycle is when you will know that FGM is bad. As long as you are with the community, you will still embrace FGM.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation. Our guests today, World Anti-FGM Day, are Dorice Donya Aburi, the woman rep for Kisii County, and a former woman rep for Migori County, Dennitah Ghati, who is a gender, disability, and anti-FGM activist.
Good evening, everybody. How you doing?
Spice FM.
Today is World Anti-FGM Day, and we're discussing it with two leaders who have been championing this in the community. Dorice Donya Aburi, woman rep for Kisii County, and former Migori woman rep Dennitah Ghati, who is an anti-FGM activist for many years. So both of you ladies have told us, yes, it's still happening in the society, in the communities. And now, Dorice, you're saying, in fact, it's even moved. That whole thing of it being done traditionally is being formalized. So they're going to a properly trained medic to perform it. They have sort of improved the way they're doing it in terms of they're not hiving off everything. They're saying, it's more of the rite of passage now. Is it the same thing that's happening within your community, Dennitah?
It is just about the same. What we are seeing, as I mentioned, is that we have now the cross-border. I think that is now what is happening. That's what we are seeing increasingly, because obviously the laws are tougher in this country. And so they feel that it is easier. By the way, even as we speak today, today being it's actually the International Zero Tolerance Day on FGM. The CS, Madam Commissioner Aisha Jomo, is actually in Korea. That's where celebrating, that is my community right there, where she's basically looking at this whole issue of FGM. And for me, as a person who comes from the border, we have increasingly seen this happen. Medicalization of FGM, call it medicalization, because thinking that going to the nurse and the doctor is good. But at the end of the day, that is FGM still. Nurses are increasingly also doing FGM, and those are people that need to be, targeted in our campaigns. And the ministry, government must look at that. If we look at, for example, creating awareness around the issues of the Anti-FGM Prohibition Act that we have of 2011, you remember, we have all this information under that act, that law.
Yep.
But that information, again, at the grassroots level, now enforcement becomes a problem because the chiefs, whoever is supposed to create that awareness. Laws are there. We cannot say that we are short of laws in this country on FGM. We have laws. Kenya is a signatory to so many laws that we have. But again, now the enforcement. Who does the enforcement of these laws at the grassroots level? Who does the awareness of these laws at the community level? That is where the missing link is, and that is why FGM continues to go. You remember when the former president Kenyatta was in Canada? I remember at a huge conference, women conference called Women Deliver, where he actually pledged to end FGM by 2022.
Yep.
Now look at, you cannot say you are ending FGM by 2022, and then 2022 December, you are seeing so many girls getting into rescue centers.
Yep.
I have tried personally. When I served as Women Rep Migori, my money that I received as National Government Affirmative Action Fund, I established a rescue center in Korea. But let me tell you, and this rescue center in Korea East, where I am born, where I am bred, this rescue center and many others that other women reps have put together, the rescue centers are not enough. That means you are actually kind of encouraging.
What do you mean not enough?
Yes. The rescue centers are good, yes. But what is the point of us not addressing FGM and building rescue centers? We should actually be thinking of how do we reduce even these centers. So
how do we address FGM, Weshima? Because I've actually talked about this. We've had this conversation previously. The laws seem not to be working. So what is it that needs to work? And some of the arguments here have been advocated that, we look at FGM and we sort of, by even coming up with the laws, we are refusing to acknowledge the community's need for a rite of passage. Boys have a rite of passage. Whether it's done in hospital, it's a rite of passage for boys, and they know it very well. When you go through circumcision, you're now going to the next stage. Culturally, it's done. It's medically, it's being done. It's law. It's legal. Girls, we seem to want to say, no rite of passage. We're not coming up with a substitution for that rite of passage.
There are alternative ways of passage.
Okay. What are those?
And
are those the ones that are being advocated for in the community?
These are the ones we should venture into, put more energy into. You take girls when they've closed school. They can even be trained still in school because we don't have that capacity of training them while they've closed down schools. They can be told that FGM is not actually no holy book advocates for FGM. No health benefits have been talked of when you've gone through the cut. Instead, it has so many disadvantages. There are those who die. What can you talk about it? Leave alone having problems while urinating, while menstruating. Leave alone, childbirth, even during having sex. Because when we talk of infibulation, kind of FGM, is where sometimes they stitch. If you've been stitched, you'll definitely have problems during sex. Those ones are not talked. Leave all those aside. The only way we should do this is by education.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So what programs are there for alternative rites of passage?
The programs are, you bring all these social problems, even HIV, you tell them about teen pregnancies, you discourage.
But what symbolic? Do you think there should be something symbolic
Let me give you
that signifies, that symbolizes that this is a rite of passage that this girl has gone through? It's not just saying that you talk to your auntie.
I don't think there's anything wrong with a rite of passage because they're practiced all over the world.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with the rite of passage. For me, where the issue is that if you have something that poses a potential danger as opposed to and assistance, that's where the problem is. Because the studies have been done, people have talked about it for years, that there don't seem to be any merits over demerits of FGM. There don't seem to be any merits over.
Yeah,
That a girl, we've talked to girls who've gone through it, they've not been able to link that this cut then has contributed to them being seen as or being appreciated for themselves or somebody else as a woman.
No benefit.
No benefit.
No benefit.
Exactly.
No benefit.
No benefit. And
Yeah.
these are girls who've said it themselves when they're thinking soberly minded. However, to change that, I understand the need for something just as symbolic when they say, okay, so now I'm getting on to the next level. Education is a big deal here for you to be able to make the difference. And it's not for the girls who are being cut. It's for the people who are entrenching the tradition, number one, and it's the people who are practicing it, number two, and number three, the people who are actually performing the acts. Right? But is there something else that can be done? If there is, what is being done? I'll give you an example, a glaring example. In Nigeria, there were the fattening houses of the Efik people in the rivers states. And this was when a young girl who was going to be married was taken into a fattening house for 3 to 6 months, and she was fattened, literally, because the men of the community believed that if she was fat and fair, she was more beautiful. But what happened is that you now had hundreds of women who were suffering from diabetes later. That they were dying from heart attacks. They were dying from being obese. So they were able to make the connection. It's an ancient practice, and it's starting to now become extinct. They made the link between fattening these girls and them dying before their 40th birthday. And the education went down to where people said, okay, there's got to be another way that we can prepare women for marriage. Yeah, and that's the thing. What can be done? If we're saying that there must be this preparation period, what do people hold dear in tradition that can be used to say, look, there are other ways that can prepare you for womanhood? We all know women are prepared, you're learned, you're taught how to cook, you're taught how to take care of a man, etc., etc. Can there be other ways that this can be done?
I think we have all agreed that education is key. Those education campaigns, because at the end of the day, this education, when girls belong to school, the issue of school is extremely important. And those are the campaigns that we have been running. Because girls do not belong to those needles and razors.
Yes.
We have been raising campaigns and talking about the issue of education. Girls belong to schools. If they're in school, they are safer. But I can tell you, this FGM issue is not a one dimension.
Absolutely.
A lot of stakeholders, multi-sectoral approach is needed on this FGM. We cannot say we as leaders are going to end FGM. We have parents, we have even the teachers. We have run campaigns and girls club and anti-FGM clubs in schools.
Talked about the dangers.
So that the teachers are able to also be trained to be, to understand the dangers and also talk to them. Because teachers, apart from the parents, teachers are the next parents of these children at school. We have engaged these teachers. We have engaged even the church. Let me tell you one thing. The church, the religious institution must declare their stand on FGM. Because those are policy, the kind of policy, the decision makers. If our pastors and our priests in churches can actually talk about FGM in the churches, in the pulpit, FGM will also have a way to end. But I can tell you, we have done quite a lot. And we continue to do a lot. And we cannot say that this FGM, and FGM is not even going to end today or tomorrow. These efforts will continue. And I'm telling you, and sometimes it pains me, Eric, it really pains me, that in this century, 21st century, we are still talking FGM. We have so many other issues to talk about.
That's true.
We have so many issues to talk about. And this FGM, we have been talking about FGM ever since. I grew up, seeing FGM, seeing it, and we have been campaigning. And this is the 21st century. We are actually talking about FGM. When we are talking about digital, space and things like that, then there's a culture here. In Senegal, for example, because in my efforts, I've been to Senegal. Senegal have developed something they're calling this rite of passage. We have these things that they sign. What is it called? Declarations.
Yep.
Now we have tried also the declarations in my community and even the Kisii community.
Who signs the declaration?
These declarations are signed by the village elders, the leaders, the cultural. Those
So the
people who
community
control
influencers.
community influencers.
Uh-huh.
These are the people who actually usually sign these declarations, and because there are people who
Saying
who
what?
speak.
We commit
To ending FGM by this. But do those declarations translate? That is the question.
Where does the pushback come from? What is it that those that say that listen to all these conversations? I mean, you've been campaigning against FGM for over 30 years now, Dennitah. I've known you. You have been pushing this conversation. People are aware. People are aware of the law. People are aware of the campaigns against FGM. People have heard all these things. What is it that they push back on? Why are they resisting?
People must just stop being selfish. Let me tell you, this poverty issue.
Wait. The resistance is poverty? Explain.
The other resistance is this. People are also looking for money. Let me tell you, the moment we stop looking at FGM as a money-making venture is when we will stop this FGM. Unless you understand where FGM comes from and those preparations that go into undertaking FGM, in most of our communities, when it is the season for FGM, that is when because every person who performs, the perpetrator or the cutter, the person who cuts, is usually paid.
And the community is fed.
And it is a party. And people
so
are
it's a
getting
festive
merry.
season.
It is a festive season.
Right.
Unless we address the root causes, which is poverty, how then do we ensure that our people actually get out of poverty? What business, what economic empowerment venture can we give to our community so that they engage there? So that they leave this issue of making money and minting millions out of girls.
Mheshimiwa Dorice, if we trace back, and I don't know how much of this we've actually done, because usually to sort out an issue in the present, sometimes if you go back historically, that will give you a clue as to then how you can sort it out in the present. So many, many years ago, however many many's there were, the initial practice of FGM, or female circumcision, because FGM took on this name later, of female circumcision. Do we know why it was practiced? What did they hope to achieve? Because then we couldn't say that it was a poverty issue. It was community, it was tradition. What was the reason why they did it?
The traditional excisors and their livelihood out of it. They were paid. Then the girls were told, if we cut off, it's a way of controlling your sexual urge.
Okay.
You won't be hyper. That's what promiscuous. That's what girls were told. Then later on, I could ask myself, yes, you've controlled their sexual urge when they're young. When they grow old, and of course, women, you will need that urge. What will you do? That is the point. Now we started educating against FGM. Okay. So if you're a young girl and your parents are telling you, Kwamboka, if you go through the cut, definitely your sexual urge won't be high. You will not be running around needing these small boys. That has helped at your tender age. But what of? That was one way of cooling down their sexual urge.
Was this
which was
actually
wrong.
the
Very
case?
wrong.
Or was this advanced by people who are pushing against the FGM? So came up with a message. Because I always try to connect. So boys go through the cut. Okay? Because all these communities that practice FGM, they also practice male circumcision. So boys go through the cut. And then there's those whole rite of passage. This is now what you become. Now you become a Moran, a warrior. You're supposed to go and fend for the community, protect the community and all. And you will get married and you will have children and all this and the other. Girls are going through the cut as well. Everything else you've said. They are being taught, now you've become a young girl, you become a young woman, now you have responsibilities in the home, you have all these responsibilities. At what point is the issue of control the sexual urge being given to the girl and not to the boys?
That's the thing. I think that's the question.
Are we sure that that FGM was actually not only a rite of passage, but it was more of some sort of sexual emasculation of women? Are we really sure?
That's what we are told. That was the message.
Is there anything that logically connects those dots? Because for me, it doesn't.
Exactly. And I think you've just nailed it, Eric, because that is the thing. Why is it then that you are linking, right? You're linking this cut to then now not being sexually promiscuous. Why would you do that? And I think that's the puzzle.
Is it that before the FGM started in these communities, girls were so sexually promiscuous that they needed to be controlled?
They started with it. It was there.
Was there anything that shows us that prior to FGM, girls in these communities were promiscuous?
I think I've always asked myself, do you want to tell me that girls who are actually cut
are
less promiscuous
That's the thing.
than those who are who
That was the belief.
You know, I mean, for me, it was and that's what I said. Honestly, maybe long time ago, it was felt better to protect girls. Maybe. I do not know, because we are living in the now, isn't it?
Not in the promiscuity, though.
We are also looking at, and that's why I said sometimes you look at it and say, are these people selfish? Because why would someone wake up and in most of our communities, and those who do FGM, you realize the people who speak around women's clitoris. Let me use that word because we talk about it. Women clitoris and women's antennas are men. What business do these men got to do with a woman's body when they have theirs? They should actually be looking at theirs. Then you find a majority of them also are thinking of how do they control this woman's body so that you're not promiscuous. Now, if we do more research and say, do girls who get circumcised, are they less promiscuous than those who are not circumcised? And for me, the answer will be no.
A
woman is a woman.
I don't think there's a promiscuity issue.
It will not even
I do not
it comes
think
up.
it was ever about promiscuity.
And in fact, that has led to high increase of teen mothers, because when you tell us, when you start interfering with someone's way of life, you promote the act. All those ladies who've been cut, some of them ended up even having children in their homes. It didn't work. That's why we've come out strongly to castigate this thing. You asked Indu about what can be done to solve the whole issue. First of all, we have what we call education, which we've insisted on. We have laws and policies which need to be enforced. Then we have the cultural interventions. These are cultural interventions. We will have the exercise telling girls about the merits of FGM, because we have no merits. Every act ends up to disadvantage the young girls. So if we did on these three things and we intensified, believe you me, we will have a good fight on FGM. Those three things. No magic will come. No magic. We just take them through education. We have the cultural interventions and then our laws and policies. Period.
Eric, we have had professionals. We have had professionals who come from communities that practice FGM.
Yep.
And these professionals are they're avoiding talking about FGM. And for me, that has been my finding in my entire line of, if professionals can engage their communities than coming to live in Nairobi and leave, girls to suffer at the grassroots there, I think it can also have a different change. Towards the end of last year, I had a professional engagement in my community. And I remember that time we had Honorable Rachel Shabesh there. We had the county commissioner. We were engaging the professionals. And the professionals were actually saying, we need economic empowerment for our people. Communities that practice FGM are poor communities. They use this as a money-making season. They make money. How do we address the issue of FGM through economic empowerment? How do we ensure that girls belong to schools, even when, we have constructed these centers? And that's why I said these rescue centers, as much as they're good, but they're not necessary. When we can actually talk our communities out of FGM.
We shouldn't be rescuing them at
We
all.
shouldn't be rescuing our girls from home because.
So what are the alternatives? Because I hear all the times that everybody talks about alternative rite of passage. What is it? And I don't think saying that you've taken girls and put them in a room for 3 weeks, that has that symbolism that the cat had
Well, we
traditionally.
can have it as a subject in schools. The early the better, because it starts at some at the age of 6 to 15. So if we could have it at
But what is this
grade.
one ceremony? Because everybody looks at a ceremony that symbolizes. Graduation is a ceremony that symbolizes that you've actually gone through this level of education. You're wearing the hat, you have graduated. That is a rite of passage.
Yes.
What is this one ceremony that would then symbolize a rite of passage for the girls so that you don't have to go through the cut?
I
Then
think
you
that's
go
something
through
that
this.
must be thought of, but this can't be it can't be it. That is something that must be thought of. But this one that has caused decades and decades of trauma like this for women who then have gone through childbirth for somebody who's been circumcised is tormentous.
It does.
Just the act of urination is tormentous for girls who've been circumcised. So there has got to be something else that realizes that you've gone from girl to woman. There's got to be something else, not that.
Yeah, and I think that's what you need to explore. Because I say, we have laws, we have policies, they are not working. And until the moment when we say, yeah, we have had these ones, we've pushed this far, it's not working, we also need to integrate understanding what is this cultural belief and need for a rite of passage, and then understanding how to address it. We may need to move somewhere.
We may need to actually even look at our curriculum. We may need to revise and actually review, even amend our curriculum, right from ECD, right from ECD through primary education. These are the issues because that is the age where girls undergo FGM. That is the age where girls are at risk.
Yeah.
Now we must review our curriculum very well. And that's something that needs to be done, actually, and that's something that needs to be pushed.
It can be a subject
so that it is a subject
school.
taught in schools.
Yeah.
FGM must be a subject taught in schools to understand the dangers of FGM. And you remember, even last year, was it last year or the year before, there was a court case. You know, there was a woman who is a whole doctor.
Doctor.
Dr. Tatu Kamau, who
And
went
there's
to
a
go
message
and
that she
he
was
was
passing.
challenging. But again, you know, the moment we say that we are changing the curriculum to have FGM taught in schools, factored in schools, then that means that girls begin to get that information right from a young age, and that will mean that girls, by the time they reach that age, they'll be able to
They'll be
decide,
able to do something.
do I want to undergo FGM when I'm, for example, 18 or 19?
That's
And you know,
true.
most women will not do that.
Let's end it there. Dennitah Ghati, former woman rep Migori County and gender disability and anti-FGM activist, and the Honorable Dorice Donya Aburi, woman rep Kisii County, have been our guests.